Another Bite, hosted by John Dick, Jory Monroe, and Ariel Boswell, is brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. Each week, they break down episodes of everyone's favorite business television show, Shark Tank, offering their own unique thoughts, spin-off companies, critiques, and even talk with some of the folks who pitched to the sharks and live to tell the tale. From squatty potties to mensch on a bench, and even that weird golf club you use as a toilet, Another Bite takes a fresh look at some of your favorite episodes, and even more importantly, answers what these entrepreneurs are up to now. It's an amazing show for getting a more in-depth look at how businesses are built. And no matter where you are in your journey of work or business ownership, you can be sure you'll walk away with a fresh perspective. So listen to Another Bite wherever you get your podcasts. This is Optimal Work Daily, episode 1122, The Pre-Med and Ira Glass. Complicated Career Advice from Compelling People, by Cal Newport of calnewport.com. And I'm Dan, your host and narrator, and we're going to get right to it now and hear from Cal as we optimize your life. The Pre-Med and Ira Glass, Complicated Career Advice from Compelling People, by Cal Newport of calnewport.com. Not long into their interview with public radio host Ira Glass, one of the three college-aged interviewers, a young girl, asks, with a desperate smile etched on her face, how to decide which of her passions to pursue. Like, how do you determine how... She begins. How do you figure out what you want? Glass interrupts. How do you not only figure out what you want, but know that you'll be good at it? She finishes. There's a pause. In this moment, when Glass prepares his answer, the young girl's earlier admission that she's a pre-med and doubting her decision to attend med school hangs in the air. Glass can relate. He, too, had been considering med school when he stumbled into his first radio internship after his freshman year of college. He proceeds cautiously, softly. Quote, honestly, even the stuff you want, you're not necessarily good at right away. I started working at 19 at the network level, and from that point it took me years. The key thing is to force yourself through the work, force the skills to come. That's the hardest phase. End quote. One of the other interviewers, a young man in a baseball cap, interjects, do you think hard work can make you talented? Yes, I do, Glass responded. The students let this sink in. In the movies, there's this idea that you should just go for your dream, Glass continues. But I don't believe that. By the students' reactions, this is not what they expected to hear. Glass continued, quote, things happen in stages. I was a terrible reporter, but I was perfectly good at other parts of working in radio. I am a good editor. I feel like your problem is that you're trying to judge all things in the abstract before you do them. A beat. That's your tragic mistake. Glass finished. The Road Trip Nation Revelation. This interview is one of many conducted by the nonprofit organization Road Trip Nation, which sends students across the country to interview, quote, eclectic individuals who have resisted pressures to conform, end quote. They seek advice for building an interesting path through life. If you explore the full Road Trip Nation video archive, as I did one recent weekend, you begin to appreciate the nuance and serendipity behind these compelling people and their compelling careers. Amidst this nuance, however, one conclusion is stark. The canonical advice to follow your passion is way too simplistic. As with Glass's story of toiling for years before finally discovering a niche in radio editing, many of the interviews echo this same theme, that passion is not something you discover in a career center. Its source is more complicated. The astrobiologist and the surfer. If I actually sat down and said I had planned any of this, I'd be lying through my teeth. End quote. So begins an interview with Andrew Steele, the astrobiologist who was launched to scientific fame in 1996 when he debunked the evidence for life on Mars identified in meteorite ALH 84001. As Steele recounts, his transition to astrobiology was unplanned. He had just finished a dissertation on high-resolution bacteria imaging when he heard the news that a, quote, geezer from NASA thought he found life on Mars, end quote. He realized his imaging skills could help settle the question, so he called up NASA and got a piece of the meteorite to test. Did it take guts to call him up? Asks one of the student interviewers. Not really, Steele replied. They said, who's calling? And I said, Dr. Steele. Did you do that Ph.D. hoping you'd one day change the world? The student continues. No, I just wanted options, Steele said. You didn't know you were going to go into this at a young age? The student persists. No, I had no idea what I was going to do. I object to systems that say you should decide now what you're going to do. That's BS. Don't close doors. An interview with Al Merrick, the founder of Channel Island Surfboards, provider of surfboards for many of the sport's top athletes, expressed similar sentiments to his young interviewers. People are in a rush to start their lives, and it's sad, he drawls, his voice soft with surfer cool. Merrick had been a successful amateur surfer growing up, but his path took him far from the breaks, through 2 years of college and a failed stint as a flower grower and a boat builder before he returned to the sport and started shaping surfboards. The fiberglass skills he picked up in boat building, combined with years of competitive surfing, gave him an edge. He explains, quote, My designs worked, so I started making them for better surfers. I didn't go out with the idea of making a big empire. I set goals for myself at being the best I could be at whatever I did. End quote. The circuitous path to compelling work. These 3 interviews, along with many others in the Road Trip Nation archive, all undermine the notion that you should simply follow your passion and you'll immediately be happy. For Glass, Steele, and Merrick, the path was more circuitous. This doesn't mean, however, that their success is entirely serendipitous. Instead, a pair of related ideas recur in their stories. 1. Don't expect fireworks on your first day. Glass, for example, talked about the importance of forcing yourself to develop skills when you're new to a job. That's the hardest phase, he said. And 2, once you're good, and only then, start looking for your niche. Glass found editing-driven radio programming. Steele found astrobiology. Merrick found surfboard shaping. In all 3 cases, they were drawing from a deep reservoir of relevant expertise when they made their moves into the work we know them for today. None of them had identified these specific pursuits at an early age. I had no idea what I was going to do, said Steele. This advice is less sexy than the popular notion that with a little self-reflection you can identify your dream job right away. The interviews emphasize instead that the reality of finding compelling work is ambiguous. Interestingly, even though their archives emphasize this ambiguity, the manifesto page for Road Trip Nation exclaims, in contradiction to the insights of their own interviews, quote, It's up to you to define your road in life, based on what you're truly passionate about, end quote. These compelling careers unfold as follows. You choose something. You work hard at building skills. You fail at some things and respond by shifting your attention to other things that work better. Over time, as you become more valuable to the world and confident in your ability, interesting opportunities finally start to arise. It is here, it seems, surprisingly late in the process, that passion reaches full bloom. In a telling clip, a group of students sit down with Manny, a lobsterman from Falmouth, Maine. As Manny lounges on the deck of his lobster boat, a Sam Adams in hand, he personifies our daydream of abandoning the rat race to enjoy a life of rustic simplicity. But even Manny, it turns out, can't escape the necessity of carefully feeling out your path while building competence. He tells the students, quote, It took a long time to get where I got. It's what I've been doing for the last 5 years, up here, measuring lobsters. You just listened to the post titled The Pre-Med and Ira Glass, Complicated Career Advice from Compelling People by Cal Newport of calnewport.com. Your business was humming. Was. Now teams are buried in manual work, taking forever to close the books. Consider 3 numbers. 36,000, 25, 1. 36,000. That's the number of businesses which have upgraded to NetSuite by Oracle. NetSuite is the #1 cloud financial system, streamlining accounting, financial management, inventory, HR, and more. 25. NetSuite turns 25 this year. That's 25 years of helping businesses do more with less. 1. Because your business is one of a kind, so you get a customized solution for all of your KPIs in one efficient system with one source of truth. NetSuite is giving you the power of having all your information in one place, helping you to make better, more driven decisions as a business owner. Right now, download NetSuite's popular KPI checklist, designed to give you consistently excellent performance, absolutely free at netsuite.com/startup. That's netsuite.com/startup to get your own KPI checklist. netsuite.com/startup. Thank you to HelloFresh. With HelloFresh, you get farm-fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. HelloFresh handles all the meal planning and shopping to deliver everything you need to cook up a tasty meal right at home. They do the hard part, and you get to take the credit. A new season calls for new meals, and HelloFresh has a fresh fall lineup of delicious dinners and more to choose from. Take your pick from 40 weekly recipes that suit your lifestyle, from veggie to family-friendly to fit and wholesome. And my favorite part? HelloFresh is actually significantly less expensive than both takeout and grocery shopping. So HelloFresh has managed to save me time, health, and a little moolah. So go to hellofresh.com/50OWD and use the code 50OWD for 50% off plus 15% off the next 2 months. Go to hellofresh.com/50OWD and use code 50OWD for 50% off plus 15% off the next 2 months. And thanks so much to Cal, who's a pretty compelling person himself. He's a popular writer with a book that's being talked about everywhere, it seems, and that is Deep Work, one of 6 self-improvement books that he's written. He completed his undergraduate studies at Dartmouth College in 2004 and received a Ph.D. from MIT in 2009 in computer science. He also served as a postdoc in the MIT Computer Science Department, and then he joined Georgetown University as an assistant professor of computer science, and he eventually got tenure there in 2017. Cal's work focuses on distributed algorithms in challenging network scenarios, so he's a pretty smart guy. And again, he has multiple popular books that are worth checking out, plus his blog, which is called Study Hacks. And last but not least, you can check out his relatively new podcast called Deep Questions, and you can find all of that at calnewport.com. All right, that is going to do it for today. And I thank you for being a subscriber. If you already are, that really helps us out. And if you're not yet a subscriber, you can simply click subscribe or follow depending on your podcast app, and we really appreciate it. So have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you back here tomorrow as usual, where your optimal life awaits.